Hello, and welcome to another episode of The End of the Search. This one I call it Facing the Dark Night. It's based on a question someone asked, and the question is, I am having a dark night of the soul. Cannot sleep, believing thoughts. See it what you say, not be in the mind. I have sought help medical, then psychiatric, mainly due to medical, but getting appointment for a doctor or test takes a long time. So I am very anxious. How do I finally free myself? I know a lot of me is there. Is there a way to get out? Just don't identify? Can I get in more personal contact and email? I feel a short talk could be very beneficial and I would be very grateful. Well, yes, if you go to my website, there's information if you want a one-to-one, but I prefer to do a video first and see if this can be resolved this way, because my intent is not to seek clients or followers or anything like that. That is just available if it just happens. But for the most part, I think that we can address your issue here on this video, and then if you feel you want a one-on-one, go to my website nicarandes.com and then read the information and then check with yourself and see if you feel that may work for you. Okay, so first of all, let's talk a little bit about this idea of dark night or so. This is not a rule of thumb. Doesn't have to be the same for everybody. But when there's a strong identification with the sense of identity, there's a part of ourselves that wants to be free from it. And that seems to create an internal conflict. Because the moment one begins to either question ourselves, all that resistance can come up to try to bring us back to the sense of identity. Or it could be that the pain and the suffering wants to be relieved, and that's when the search begins. So what I would like to do is I like to quote a couple of things from the Bible and A Course in Miracles and Nisargadatta Mahara. So for example, Nisargadatta Mahara, regards to the dark night of the soul or whatever, he says, don't bully yourself. Violence will make you hard and rigid. Do not fight with what you take to be obstacles on your way. Just be interested in them. Watch them. Observe. Inquire. Let anything happen, good or bad. But don't let yourself be submerged by what happens. It's kind of like when we're going through this heavy, intense experiences, psychological experiences, the invitation is, instead of trying to fight them and trying to get out of them, because that keeps feeding the sense of identity that now feels that it's trapped, just take the position of simply observe. Observe. Yeah, the feelings are there, the sensations may be there, and the thoughts are there, but just notice that you're looking at it from the perspective of a witness rather than engaging with them. Because we're not trying here to fix the character. And this is what a lot of times happens. You said over here, how do I free myself? No, it's not about you freeing yourself, because you are already free. You just don't realize because you have such a strong identification with your sense of identity and feelings and sensations and all that stuff that comes up, and yet the message is the same, just being. See? A Course in Miracles says, the ego is deceived by everything you do, especially when you respond to the Holy Spirit. In other words, when you respond to peace, you can use that word, because at such times its confusion increases. The ego is therefore particularly likely to attack when you react lovingly because it has evaluated you as unloving and you are going against its judgment. The ego will attack your motives as soon as they become clearly out of accord with its perception of you. This is when it will shift abruptly from suspiciousness to viciousness, since its uncertainty is increased. Yet, it is surely pointless to attack in return. What can this mean except that you are agreeing with the ego's evaluation of what you are? In other words, when this identification with the false sense of self, when that's beginning to be questioned, the resistance, the ego thought system, which is the belief that I am this individual, it seems to try to get attention at any cost. And there's no point in trying to resist it or fight against it, because it corroborates the belief that you are a separate individual, a separate entity. This is why this is something that transcends the mind. This is not about being fixed at the level of the mind. This is simply the willingness to plow through just by being, but here's the thing. Not because I want to be free from it, is because that is no longer a distraction to what I am, which is what these videos are pointing to. You may be going through a very heavy mind attack, but that is part of a process that seems to be taking place that is forcing you to somehow bring your attention back to this sort of separate entity. And the only thing that is asked is to simply be, you see? Because once again, we're not trying to fix the character. We're recognizing who we are in essence. And who we are in essence is not this separate entity with a psychological profile. What we are is beyond that. We simply are. And yes, in the R-ness or isness that we are, there'll be all sorts of experiences and sensations and thoughts, but none of that can affect what I am in essence, which is what these videos are pointing to. In the Bible, for example, they use the example when Jesus says, "Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil," meaning by all these thoughts and resistance, whatever. "And after fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry." You see? "And with tempter came and said to him," you see? And the tempter, meaning the thoughts, they came to him because he was at that vulnerable space. And it says, "If you're the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread." But he answered, "It is written, men shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." In other words, all of this in symbolical ways pointing to the fact that when you're beginning to, when the recognition or the desire for truth, whether it's something that you do because you want truth or because you cannot deal with the suffering of being seeming, whatever the case may be, when that comes along, well, there's a resistance that can take many shapes and many forms. Many people have gone through doctors and everything like that to try to find out what's wrong with them, and doctors couldn't find anything. Muji called it the satsang flu. When you're really undoing this false sense of identity, all kinds of things can come up to the surface. You don't know what they are, you don't know what they mean, but the problem that I see in your question is that you're fighting it. You're saying over here, how do I finally free myself? You see, it's that you're trying to fight that, and the point is not to fight it, the point is just to simply be. That's why there's a line in the Course in Miracles when Jesus says, "Since all the illusions of salvation have failed you, surely you do not want to remain in the clouds looking vainly for idols there, where you could so easily walk on into the light of real salvation. Try to pass the clouds by whatever means appeal to you. If it helps you, Think of me holding your hand and leading you. And I assure you, this will be no idle fantasy. Right now, when you rest in beingness, not to try to fight anything, not to try to suppress what you're feeling, you're opening yourself to the experience, the experience itself. As a matter of fact, Ramana Maharshi, when he was, I believe, 16 years of age, he went through his own, you could say, death, so to speak. And instead of fighting it, all he did is that he went right into it, and he said, he surrendered to it. This is kind of what this is pointing to a certain extent. Now, I want to make sure something clear here. I am assuming that you don't have any particular pathological issue or something like that, because I'm not giving you advices as to what to do or not to do. I'm just pointing to a possibility that might have been overlooked. Right now, for example, as you're listening to this video, as you're watching and listening to this video, are those sensations still there? I'm just out of curiosity, because if they are not there right now, then you can see how everything is transitory. Now, this is not about feeding the individual, and this is what we have to remember this. This is not about but holding on to your sense of identity, because that is actually, it's going to keep fueling whatever the mind throws at you in order to keep holding to that identity, you see? So, what we're doing is something we have never done before. Once this ego identity, the sense of me person, is so well established, very rigidly established, the mind will hang on to it at any cost, and it'll do it through pain and pleasure, psychological, comfort or discomfort. But in the end, what we are transcend all of this. So what would happen, for example, if you look at the situation you're maybe experiencing it, what would happen? Again, this is just an invitation. What would happen if you say to yourself, I'm ready to go? And you completely surrender to it. Completely surrender to it. The first thing you will notice is that there'll be no suffering. There'll be no suffering. All that there will be just pure experience. That's all. Raw experience. Well, this is kind of what this is pointing to. But it's not that you're doing this to try to fix something. You see, this is what we got to remember. We're not trying to fix anything. We're just simply in a total openness to whatever it is as it comes, without resisting it, without thinking there's something wrong with me, or I'm doing it wrong. No. It's just basically life that is expressing in this particular moment. And when we open ourselves to it, and you see how everything comes and goes, and you're resting in the isness, that this is where these videos are pointing to. That's why I'm not trying to feed you information as far as what to do with the character. I am not suggesting that there's anything wrong with seek any help that you may find yourself inspired to. In the end, we're pointing to the possibility that you're just going through clouds, and the only thing we can do is just simply just be with them, but don't identify with them. A pilot, for example, who's going through heavy clouds, yeah, he or she cannot see outside. And his senses or her senses may suggest that he's flying upside down. That's what is called spatial disorientation. And yet, even if the senses may suggest that the airplane is upside down, and I can tell you about this because I have a single and multi-engine private pilot, when I was crossing a cloud that I don't have any reference point, I would notice that I feel that I'm going like this, or when they put us the hood to practice instruments, I feel like I'm going like this, and what is the tendency to overcompensate? But this overcompensation, what it does is turn the airplane upside down. So what do? Trust your instruments. Even when my sense of balance is saying that the airplane is going like this, the instrument says no. The gyro is there right now. No, just leave it there, and I have to trust. Well, this is kind of what we have to go through in these particular experiences. We just have to trust. Because again, we cannot remain unconscious for the rest of our life. We are destined to wake up from this dream. We are destined to remember who we are. That's why, for example, Nisargadatta Maharaj used to say, do understand that you are destined for enlightenment. Cooperate with your destiny. Don't go against it. Don't thwart it. Allow it to fulfill itself. All you have to do is to give attention to the obstacles created by the foolish mind. You see? What are the obstacles? You see the thoughts, you see the sensations, you see the feelings, and you look at them and you say, okay, go back again to the witness position. Let them say what they're going to say. Let them speak what they're going to speak. Let them do whatever they're going to do. In the end, if there's no identification with the sense of self, then there's no fear of what will happen to the body. Yeah, on a physical level, there's a natural protection to the biological self. So yeah, that'll take care of itself, but there's no psychological fear about it. That's what I always say, that people are so afraid of dying. And in one of the books, The Gift of an Illness, I had a whole chapter to demystify all that, to see that dying happens every night when you go to bed. When you go to bed at night and the psychological sense of self disappears, that is a beautiful death. You see? So when you look at the experience right now and you see that life is, and you're not identified with the concept of self, then it's very difficult for the ego mind, for the thought system trying to kind of get a hold of you, because you don't care. Meaning you don't mind. You say, okay, if it's time to go, it's time to go. So every night when I go to bed, I die. And then when I wake up in the morning, that implies that life wants to continue this journey. And the difference is that when there's no fear of letting go of the sense of self, the journey, the in-between, the morning and night, is very different. There'll be pain and there may be pleasure, but none of that affects who you are, because you're no longer being threatened by any of that, you see? And in A Course in Miracles it says, the acceptance of the atonement by everyone, it's only a matter of time. You see? It's not that some people will never wake up from the dream. No. The mind is destined to wake up from this dream. It cannot hold itself prison for the rest of eternity. Continue. Tolerance for pain may be high, but it's not without limit. Eventually, everyone begins to recognize, however dimly, that there must be a better way. And that's when the search begins. See, some people may seem to have a lot of tolerance for the rigidness of the mind, but in the end they have to crack down, they have to break down. You see, because you cannot hold this pain, this underlying suffering forever. Within the illusory aspect, for those who believe in lifetimes, for example, some may take many lifetimes. I don't get caught up into any of that. All I know is all I have is this moment, and that's about it. And this is it. And in this particular moment, I either believe the content of the mind or I don't. Even when the body may feel sometimes well and sometimes may not feel as well, it doesn't matter, because it's no threat to me, to the essence, to what I am, which is where this is pointing to. And when that is clearly established, yes, if you're feeling, you call the dark night of the soul because there's feelings, sensations, and all that stuff, I recognize that can be very difficult. But the answer is still the same. Be still and know that I am God, just being. There's no other way around it. Again, assuming that there's no particular pathological issue, right? And yet, I'll say this too, there's people who have gone through this experience, and if they would have gone to the doctor would have easily prescribed something, suggest there's a pathological issue. And once again, I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm pointing to possibilities that may be overlooked. And right now, if you don't identify with the content of the mind, don't try to fix your character, don't try to Don't try to resist what is. If you don't identify with the content of the mind, even if the feelings may be there, you notice that at least there's no suffering. You see? And now it's just what is. This is the way it feels. You can even, as Nisargadatta Maharaj used to say, just watch your mind. See? You discover yourself as the watcher. When you stand motionless, only watching, you discover yourself as the light behind the watcher. You see? Because the mind is the veil, the obstacle in between that is overshadowing the fact that you are. And this is where these videos are pointing to. That's why we're not trying to fix the character. We're just simply opening to the death of the ego, so to speak. That's basically it, and that is what it feels that way. Now, continuing, in the Bible, Jesus would say, or words attributed to the character Jesus says, Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. It's always pointing that it's always the will of the Father. And Ramana Maharshi says, whatever is destined not to happen will not happen, try as you may. Whatever is destined to happen will happen, do what you may to prevent it. This is certain. The best course, therefore, is to remain silent. I use that quote in there, but what it's pointing to is that life is unfolding, and the only little detail here is that are you seeing life unfolding as a you person, or life is simply unfolding? You see? When there's no identification with the false sense of self, the suffering immediately dissipates. And like I said again, there'll be pain, there'll be pleasure, and there'll be whatever's supposed to happen, but you rest in the space as a witness. And yes, the question, but I mean, if I supposed to seek help, that means that I as a witness don't seek help? Again, because we're missing the mark here when I'm reminding you, and this one, Ramana's quote applies. You're not the doer. If you're supposed to seek help, you'll find yourself seeking help. If you're not supposed to seek help, you will find yourself not seeking help. Which then goes back to your question here. So then what do I do if I'm destined not to be able to do anything? There's nothing I can do. Yet, and at the same time I said, and life led you to ask a question which led to this video to be done. You see? So it's we don't have to get so caught up into all this mind tricks or something like that. It's very simple. Right now, it seems as though you're suggesting that you're going through an experience that is very uncomfortable, psychologically is very dreadful, and all of that is because your identification with your character, with the person. You, the person, I'm going through the dark night of the soul. See, there's a me who's supposed to be having that experience. That's why Ramana Maharshi always points out, he says, when you find yourself suffering or whatever the case may be, first of all, step back and see if you can find out who is the sufferer. You see? It's a step back. The feelings are there, the sensations are there, but find out who is the one suffering it. Now, believe it or not, by doing that investigation, you're putting yourself in the position of a witness, and then you try to find the sufferer. And while you're trying to find the sufferer, you're not suffering. You see? While you're trying to find the sufferer, you're not suffering. That's why when people are so overwhelmed with their thinking, I said, that's fine, I understand. I'm not going to deny that thoughts are happening. But now, I want you to find out who is the one thinking them, where the thoughts come from. When they begin to shift to trying to find out the thinker of the thoughts or the source of the thoughts, because immediately the mind says, I am thinking them. No. You are aware that thinking is happening, and you're aware of the thoughts, and you're identified with the thoughts as if they were you, but in reality the thoughts appear because you're not choosing them. So, when you begin to become conscious, okay, where is the source of the thoughts? Where do they appear from? You see? When you begin to do that, you notice that for that moment the person is no longer suffering because he's too busy trying to find the thinker of the thoughts. If the thoughts were really the cause of the suffering, the person would not be able to even do that investigation, because the thought is, as long as the thought is there, the person will continue suffering. But the moment you do that shift and it says, okay, let's see if I can find the thinker of the thought, the moment that you're trying to find the thinker of the thought, in that moment the suffering completely disappears. You see? In that case, once again, all your question is based on me. It's a self-centered question. That's why there's a lot of suffering. For example, I am having a dark night of the soul. You see, you're identified with the you. And as long as you identify with the you, all the feelings and sensations, you think that they apply to you, and that's why you're trapped. Instead of feelings and sensations that may be discomforting or whatever seems to be happening. See, try that right now. Right now. Feeling sensations are happening, okay, that's fine, and you simply are the witness of it all. Not that you personally are witnessing, but this is one step. It's one step further closer to where we're pointing to. Because in the end, what we're pointing to is to what is, which is what's happening anyway. Okay? So you see, I am having a dark night of the soul. No, you're not having a dark night of the soul. Feelings, sensations appear, and you're identified with the one who thinks that is having the dark night of the soul. Then you say, cannot sleep, believing thoughts. See it what you say, not being the mind. Okay, again, but who's the one? Who is the one that is saying, cannot sleep, believing my thoughts? See, when I find myself at night that I, for some reason, cannot sleep because the mind is, is doing its thing, well, to me, I guess I'm not supposed to sleep. That attitude, believe it or not, then before I even know it, I find myself falling asleep. Because I'm not at war with the thoughts. Okay, that's what, I guess I'm not supposed to sleep tonight. And they may be nice that I may be more restless than others. I don't know. But that's just what happens. You see? And you stop giving protagonism to this I who claims that he's suffering, all these things, Then you says, I've sought medical help, then psychiatric, mainly due to medical, but getting appointments for a doctor or test takes a long time. Now, let me tell you something. If life needed you to be seen by a doctor right now, you will find an appointment. So when I find myself that it's something I would like to do and it's not happening, I just know that it's not happening because life's will is for that not to happen. So I'm going to give you a good point over here. Maybe the reason why you don't find, and it's taking a long time, what life may be doing is pushing away all the stuff you're trying to hang on to, which is your comfort zone. You see? That's why there's a line in A Course in Miracles in the Manual for Teachers when it's talking about the levels of trust. It says at the beginning, it's as if though life is taking everything away from you. You see? But it's doing it just because you still haven't recognized what is valuable and what is valueless. And in the end, everything in this world is valueless. So right now, I could say that life purposely is not letting you getting those appointments so you don't find yourself more distracted, more confused, and then God knows taking what kind of medications that may not necessarily be in favor of the actual healing that you're going through, which is being willing to go through those dark clouds, you see, by just being. See, so that's a possibility. I'm not saying that's it, but again, to me, it's very simple. Whatever is happening is what life wants to happen. If it's not happening, life doesn't want it to happen. Because if life wanted it to happen, it will be happening. So that's why to me, it's very simple. Continue. So I'm very anxious. Okay, you see, I am very anxious. Nisargadatta Mahara used to say, instead of thinking I am anxious, I am suffering, depersonalizes. Suffering or anxiousness happened. Okay, that is a label you're placing to a particular sensation, right? But if the sensation is there and you don't identify with it and you don't label it anything, then it's just a sensation. An example is like this. Let's say somebody who have just had a heart surgery and is very afraid of dying, for example, believe that his body is what he is, and he's afraid of dying. And all of a sudden, he get a little palpitations that go a little faster, and he panics. He panics because the mind is interpreting it. Look what this means. You could die, whatever, right? Now, that same person, or let's say somebody else, it doesn't matter, who is a runner or doesn't have any issues with that, don't have any heart surgeries, have the same palpitations, but the mind doesn't interpret it in a particular way, therefore he doesn't suffer it. Same palpitations, same sensations, the only thing that made the difference is the interpretation. So as long as you keep identified with this sense of self, everything is about me, look what happens to me, look how I'm feeling, and of course that definitely creates anxious and increases the suffering. But what if you just simply rest in what is, and just being, and says whatever happens, let it happen. If it's my time to go, it's my time to go. What that means is that the ego thought system, which is a sense of identity, will not have that much ammunition to attack. It can only attack with whatever seems to be important to you. So your strong identification with feeling in a particular way is what the ego thought system or the sense of identity is using to keep you trapped. But if you simply let go completely, then that's how you rest in the beingness that you are. And then you continue to say, how do I finally free myself? You see, who is the you who wants to free himself or herself? I don't know, is it man or woman? Do you see? This is what I'm pointing to. See, it's all about me. But how about if it's about being? In being, there's no suffering. There may be sensations, there may be thoughts, there may be feelings, there may be all kinds of experiences, but you are. This is what this is pointing to, and this is why this cannot be solved with the mind, because the mind is the first obstacle, which is the cause of all the suffering and fear. You see? Then you said over here, I know a lot of me's there. Is there a way to get out? Just don't identify? No, you cannot get out because you've never been in. You cannot get out because you have never been in. When you're dreaming, when you're in bed, you see, you have never been in the dream, so you don't have to get out of the dream. You've always been in bed, but you've been distracted. Well, right now, there's no need to get out because that reinforces the character that claims that is trapped and needs to be free. But here, this is not about you becoming free. It's the fact that you are already free, like what the last book of the series. You are freedom. You're not becoming free. This videos is not for you to become free in the future. These videos are pointing to the fact that you are free right now. The only obstacle to that apparent lack of freedom is the believing that you who think that is watching this video. You see? The believing that you who thinks that is feeling the feelings. The believing that you who thinks that is thinking the thoughts. The believing that you who thinks that is hearing. The believing that you that thinks that things are happening too. But this you is a concept of the mind. Is not the real, is not what you truly are. Conceptually you will not understand, but that's why I ask questions like, for example, right now, if there's no identification with any thoughts, right now, if there's no identification with any thoughts, let them be, that's fine. Oh, this is anxiety, or this is whatever. If you don't identify with them, if you don't believe them, what remains? And notice how the mind is trying to get it. Oh, okay, what remains is peace. No! What remains is you, capital Y, which is not personal, which is not individual. It's eternal, space-like, you see? So when you're willing to be, and this is again where every single teaching points, the dark night of the soul is no dark night of the soul, it's just resistance to what is, that's all. We don't have to call it very dramatical, you know. It's the temptation, the conditioning. But right now, that conditioning is dying because what is remaining, what remains right now is what is. Right now, if you don't identify with any thoughts, what remains? Don't answer. I'm pointing to what remains. Now let me ask you, in that which remains, if there's any suffering, if there's any anxiety, if there's any worry about future or something, what is there? You see? The thing is, again, we're oscillating between two worlds because on one end, when we're suffering, we want to apply all this stuff, but when things are going well, we want to keep identified with a sense of identity. That's why I always say when people have problems, they go to the church and they pray the rosary better than the Pope itself. But when the problem is solved, they don't care about doing it anymore because they never care about truth. They just care about trying to fix the character. These videos are not about fixing the character. If you want to fix the character, well, I don't know. Life, you go wherever you think you have to go to. But this is pointing to the fact that you're free right now, in spite of what you may be feeling or the feelings that may appear, in spite of the thoughts that may appear, in spite of anything, you are free right now. And that is the most obvious. Because you're never reacting to the thoughts, nor the feeling, the sensation. You're reacting to the interpretation to the thoughts about the feelings and the sensations. But that interpretation is fueled by the belief that you're a person. And this is what we're pointing to. So right now, again, let's put this to the test. I am not denying what you may be feeling. And once again, if there's a particular physical sensation that may require some help, I'm pretty sure that life will lead you to take care of that as well. So we're not telling you what to do or not to do, but while you're here, let's put this to the test. Right now, can you say that you are not? This question is so you notice that existence is what is, but not you person. It's just the sense of existing. That's it. That's it. So I'm going to ask you, if you did not believe any thoughts, if you didn't believe any thoughts, what is the experience now? Even if the sensations may be there, okay, that's fine. But if the thoughts are seen and not believed, what is the experience now? You don't have to close your eyes and turn this to in some kind of a practice or so. Although it's nice, why not? Of course, if you can, sure. But right now you can be driving. You can be driving right now your car, listening to this video, and I can say the same thing. You're still fully alert in what you're doing, but this time the mind is sort of like presence. However, I think that you may not be driving right now, or you may not be engaged in a particular activity. So right now, if you don't believe any thoughts, what remains? Okay? Is this esoteric? Isn't this very practical? Isn't this a fact right now? Where is the suffering? Where is all these concerns and where are they? If you see them as thoughts, that means nothing. You remained. You see, you remain. You remain as you are. This is where this is all pointing to. And I reiterate, if any particular help would be needed or so, you'll see how life will move in that direction. But we're inviting you to do something you have never done before, because usually we want to find out to fix something. And what is dying right now is the psychological sense of self. That's why we're not dealing with psychology here. We're dealing with something that transcends all of that. And you will do if that is supposed to happen to you. In my case, when I find myself dealing with a particular experience, I just notice that this is what happens. And if help was needed, I noticed how life naturally moved me in that direction. But my experience, and again, I'm not saying it's the absolute truth, but I can only speak from my experience, not my as a person, but again, the way we're relating to my experience is that everything is transitory. And also the body is going to be transitory. And whenever I needed help that requires to attend it, maybe it could be a medical help or something, I find myself either moving in that direction very organically, but there's no suffering. There's no, oh my God, what's going to happen to the body? No, it's just like maybe this is what is moved to do. And then you see the body changing, the experience is changing, everything moving, all movement, but remaining as I am. You see? So that's what I say. I am not giving you an advice as to suggestion, you got to do this, this, and that. No, I'm inviting you to experience, to explore. Don't take anything I say as the absolute truth, because then you're taking me as I am the teacher, the master, the source. No. Words are coming through this instrument so you can put it to the test and you have your direct experience. Otherwise, why would be the point if you're not having the experience? Don't even follow, don't even listen to any of these videos. I wouldn't listen to videos that is not giving me the experience. People don't question their teacher. That's what he's saying is the truth. No. Not these videos. No. These videos are for you to do the investigation and see if it works for you. If it does not work for you, just move on to whatever you think it may help. But in the end, and this I will say over and over again, in the end, it's about listening to yourself, not about listening to me. It's about listening to yourself. Begin to trust yourself. Self, capital S. Being able to be willing more into that silence. And in my experience, that only happens when I'm out of the mind. That's what it is said. If you want to know truth, you must be out of your mind. Doesn't mean you have to be crazy. But in a sense, according to the world, it may seem crazy. That's why one of the books is called You're Not Crazy, You're Healing. Because when you are in the world of appearances where everybody seems to have a collective agreement of how things are, and you're no longer fitting in that space, it appears as if though you're the crazy one, when in reality you're just simply healing from the craziness of the collective consciousness. That's why somebody once says, I don't know if it's Krishnamurti that says that, those who are healing are considered strange, and those who are healed are considered crazy. Well, you're healing from the believing the content of the mind, that's all. You're not going crazy, you're becoming sane. Because you are sane always, your sanity. You were born sane, you became crazy, and now you're returning to that saneness, if that word exists. And that's all we're doing here. This is simple. Nothing to do, just be. Simply be. So once again, just beingness. Feelings happen, sensations happen, thoughts seems to happen, all of that seems to happen, but you simply are, you rest in that. And once again, if you're trying to fix the character, you're going to overlook what we're pointing to here. In a way, the attitude is, I no longer care about who I am, all I know is that I am. I mean, I don't longer care about who I am as a person, that's what I mean. I simply am, and I rest in the I am, and life unfolds as it will anyway. See, so it's not that it's going to unfold according to any particular will or personal will. It's unfolding anyway. And right now, in this script, or whatever you want to call it, in this particular play, now life unfolded that you went through certain experiences, and now life has you listening to this information, whether it comes through this instrument or whatever. Let's see if the information helps you so you can realize, oh my God, that's I am. And once again, when the feeling or the fear of letting go of this sense of identity dissipates, you'll see that this is the most obvious, and you're no longer threatened by any of the thoughts. Okay? You're not fighting them. You're not fighting anything. You're just simply being. And this is what this is all pointing to. The mind wants answers. Give me something. It has to be complicated. No, it doesn't have to be complicated. The mind makes it complicated to keep holding on to a sense of identity. Give me something to do. There's nothing to do. Simply be. Right now. Again, let's put it to the test. Right now, while you've been listening to all this conversation or this interaction, whatever the case may be, are these feelings still there? The anxiety still there? If it's not, then obviously that is proof that it's not permanent. It's something that's transitory. And what makes that experience challenging is the mind interpreting it according to who I think I am and what could happen to me. But what if you say, I don't care what happens to me. I'm willing to go right now. Because you have done the investigation of who you are, and this is where this is pointing to. Because the mind throws, yeah, but how about my family, my kids? There's no family, no kids, because there's no you. It's like in the dream, you're dreaming and you're afraid of waking up, because if you wake up, you're going to leave your family behind. You're not going to leave anybody behind because there was nobody there in the first place. You wasn't imagining. Well, so is this experience. It's all an imagining. It seems very real, in the same way that the dream at night seems very real, but they're both are as unreal because they're both projections from that, and you are that. And we're pointing to the fact that you are. So you rest in the I amness, in the I am that I am. In the I am, just, you don't have to go to I am that I am that I am that I am. No. Right now. Forget the I am. Right now. Right now. Don't believe the thoughts, don't believe anything, let them be. That's fine, just let it be. As the Beatles would say, that's a song you might want to play all the time. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Well, I hope this served, and as always, may peace permeate the mind so that love can be extended.